I never loved you for a single day. You were just convenient. At their 40th Ruby wedding anniversary, Harold declares in front of all guests. But Eleanor stands up and destroys everything with one earth-shattering statement. Nathan is not your son. Vivian drops her wine glass. Guests freeze in horror at this shocking truth. Who is Nathan's real father? Why is Vivian so enraged that she despises Eleanor? What secret was hidden for 40 years that, when exposed, tears the entire family apart? This betrayed woman's revenge will leave you absolutely mind-blown and unable to believe what happens next. And before we continue, write in the comments from which country you're watching the video, and also check if you're subscribed to the channel, as I share interesting life stories with you every day. Okay, let's enjoy the story. Eleanor stood in the middle of the living room, inhaling the scent of furniture polish and fresh lilies. The house gleamed like a polished samovar, everything just as Harold liked it. Today was their Ruby wedding, 40 years of marriage. A facade of a flawless union. 40 years. A whole life sacrificed on the altar of duty and decorum. She ran her hand over the lace napkin on the table, recalling how she'd embroidered it during long winter evenings, trying to drown out the longing and loneliness. In the mirror, she saw her reflection. Gray hair neatly styled in a strict updo, wrinkles etching her face like cracks on old porcelain. In her eyes, exhaustion and a quiet resolve. Fragments of memories flashed in her mind. The wedding, noisy and crowded, but without a spark of joy in her heart. The birth of Nathan, her only son, her secret joy and eternal pain. Endless receptions and dinner parties where she played the role of the perfect general's wife. Harold had always been demanding and reserved. He valued order and discipline, tolerated no weakness or sentimentality. Their marriage was more a business alliance than a union of loving hearts. He gave her stability and social status. She gave him an impeccable image and an air. She sighed and smoothed her dress, elegant but modest, in ruby red, as befitting the occasion. The doorbell jolted her from her thoughts. It had begun. Guests arrived gradually, filling the house with murmurs and the scent of perfumes. Harold's colleagues, important and stiff, congratulated her restrainedly, shaking hands and uttering rote phrases. Family friends, seen only on special occasions, showered compliments and admiration. Vivian, her younger sister, had flown in from Paris. Eleanor felt a tightness inside. Vivian had always been free and independent, living life to the fullest without a care. There was always a tension between them, an unspoken grudge. Eleanor envied her freedom. Vivian probably pitied her unhappy marriage. Vivian hugged her tightly, sisterly, but Eleanor read worry and sympathy in her eyes. "You look wonderful," Vivian said, smiling, but Eleanor knew it was just a mask. "I'm so glad to be here." "I'm glad too," Eleanor replied, trying to sound natural. Nathan arrived later, dressed in a sharp suit as always. A successful lawyer, the family pride. He approached, hugged her, and kissed her cheek. "Happy anniversary, Mom," he said, smiling. "You and Dad are an example to follow." At the table, a festive atmosphere reigned. Guests raised toasts, wishing Eleanor and Harold many more years of happiness, admiring their strong marriage. Nathan gave a touching speech about what he'd learned from his parents, how grateful he was for their love and support. Harold sat at the head of the table, impassive and majestic, like a general on parade. He accepted congratulations with dignity, nodding and offering short, formal thanks. No warmth or love in his eyes, just cold calculation and firm self-assurance. Eleanor watched him, trying to guess what he was planning. During another toast, Harold suddenly stood. Silence fell over the room. Eleanor felt a chill down her spine. "I'd like to say a few words," he announced in his commanding voice that brooked no argument. Eleanor froze, sensing disaster. "Today, on our Ruby anniversary, I want to be honest," Harold continued, looking straight at Eleanor. "Honest with you all and with myself." Eleanor closed her eyes, dreading what he'd say. Her heart pounded wildly like a bird trapped in a cage. "I never loved you, Eleanor," Harold declared, his words ringing out like a gunshot in the silence. "You were just convenient." Eleanor opened her eyes and looked at him. No trace of regret on his face, just cold, calculated cruelty. He said it with the same calm as if discussing the weather. Harold finished speaking, and a ringing silence hung in the room. His words, delivered with icy calm, shattered the crystal dome under which the celebration had unfolded until that moment. Eleanor saw the guests' frozen faces, half-raised glasses suspended in air, threads of awkwardness and confusion tightening. Someone coughed awkwardly, trying to ease the tension. Others lowered their eyes, avoiding the culprit's gazes. Whispers slithered through the room like snakes, spreading poisonous rumors and guesses. Nathan, always so confident and composed, seemed turned to stone. His gaze, once full of love and gratitude toward his parents, now brimmed with confusion and incomprehension. He stared at his father as if seeing him for the first time, searching his cold features for any explanation, any spark of remorse. Eleanor saw it all but felt a strange calm. Harold's words, though cruel, were no revelation to her. She'd lived with this truth for years, and now, voiced aloud, it even brought relief. Gathering her courage, Eleanor rose from her seat. Her movements were smooth and assured, as if she'd prepared for this her whole life. She looked at Harold. No love or regret in his eyes, just cold calculation. "I knew," she said quietly, but loud enough for all to hear. "And you knew Nathan isn't your son." Thunder struck. Dead silence enveloped the room. Guests' faces twisted in shock. Someone gasped. Others froze, with mouths agape. A thick veil of disbelief and astonishment hung in the air. Vivian, seated next to Nathan, let out a quiet moan. Her face paled, eyes reflecting horror. The wine glass she held suddenly felt like an unbearable weight. It slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor with a dull thud, splattering red drops across the pristine white tablecloth. The sound, like a gunshot, pierced the silence, underscoring the tragedy. All eyes turned to Vivian. She sat motionless, as if paralyzed. Her lips mouthed something silently, but no one could make out the words. Fear, pain, and agonizing realization of something horrific shone in her eyes. Nathan slowly rose from the table. His face was white as a sheet. He looked at Eleanor, then Harold, then back at Eleanor. Despair and confusion swirled in his eyes. He sought some logic in the chaos, but everything seemed senseless and absurd. He stayed silent, uttering no word, just watching his world crumble, his past, present, and future turn to dust. Memories swarmed in Eleanor's mind like tangled old film reels in a projector. She gazed at the stunned guests, Vivian's hateful glare, Harold's stony face, and words spilled from her lips like a bursting dam. "You deserve the truth," she said softly, addressing Nathan and Vivian more than the others. "In my youth, I loved truly once and forever." Her voice trembled, but it held steely resolve, as if she'd rehearsed this for years. A scene flashed in her mind, a small town bathed in summer sun, and him, a young officer, tall and handsome, with eyes the color of the sky before a storm. His name was Marcus. Eleanor, young and naive, worked in the library at the military base. Marcus often came in, supposedly for books, but really to see her. They walked evenings hand in hand, whispering confessions under starry skies. He shared his dreams, his service, his desire to build a home and start a family. She listened breathlessly, feeling she'd found her soulmate. "You're my sunshine, Ellie," he'd say, embracing her. "Without you, I'm just a soldier following orders. With you, I'm a man with a future." One day, Eleanor learned she was pregnant. She was happy, despite fear of her parents, who dreamed of a better match for her. Marcus promised marriage, assured everything would be fine. But happiness was short-lived. Marcus died during exercises. Official version. Accident. But Eleanor never believed it. Too many inconsistencies in comrades' stories. The base commander acted too strangely when informing her. She felt there was a mystery, but she was too scared and lost to dig deeper. "I learned of the pregnancy after Marcus was gone," Eleanor continued, returning to reality. Her voice strengthened, gaining detachment, as if recounting someone else's story. Her parents were horrified. Shame, an illegitimate child. What would people say? In those days, in a small town, public opinion was everything. Eleanor felt cornered. Her parents pressured her, begged her to reconsider, suggested options. Abortion to secret adoption by a childless couple. But Eleanor refused. She couldn't kill part of Marcus, the only thing left of him. "They found a solution," Eleanor said bitterly, looking at Harold. Harold was a good match military, promising from a solid family. He needed a wife for career advancement, my parents needed to save face. The marriage was arranged by calculation. Harold knew of Eleanor's pregnancy, knew the child wasn't his. He agreed to all terms for what he wanted. Eleanor stayed silent, obeying her parents. She buried her love, her dream, her life. "We made a deal," Eleanor said, locking eyes with Harold. "Silence for a future. You got your career, I got the appearance of a family." Nathan grew up unknowing. "I hoped it was best for everyone." Ringing silence hung in the room. Guests whispered, disbelieving. Nathan stood thunderstruck, speechless. Only Vivian glared at Eleanor with undisguised fury. "You knew?" Vivian whispered, staring at her sister. "You knew I loved him." Eleanor lowered her eyes. She knew Vivian secretly pined for Marcus, envied Eleanor's happiness. But then, absorbed in her own feelings, she hadn't noticed her sister's suffering. Vivian had always been vibrant and free-spirited, unlike quiet, modest Eleanor. She dreamed of Paris, fashion, a glamorous life. But deep down, she envied her sister, her love for Marcus. She saw their happiness and felt lonely, unwanted. Once, Vivian confessed her feelings to Eleanor. She cried, begged her sister to yield Marcus. Eleanor was stunned. She couldn't believe Vivian capable of such betrayal. "He loves me, Vivian," Eleanor said. "You can't change that." Vivian harbored resentment. She left town, trying to forget Marcus and Eleanor, but the pain stayed forever. She traveled the world, met men, but loved none like Marcus. "I was blind," Eleanor said, looking at Vivian. "I didn't see your suffering. I thought only of myself. Forgive me." "Forgive!" Vivian screamed, her voice breaking. "You stole everything from me, my love, my life." "And you," Vivian turned to Nathan. "You've lived a lie your whole life. You thought he was your father. He never loved you. He just used you, like all of us." Tears streamed down her cheeks. She felt betrayed and deceived. Everything she believed collapsed in an instant. "I don't understand," Nathan muttered, looking between Eleanor and Vivian. "Who am I? Who's my father?" "Your father? He was the best man I knew," Eleanor replied, gazing at her son with love and pain. "He loved you before you were born. He dreamed of you." "But he's dead," Vivian said. "And thanks to you, Eleanor, he's dead twice." Nathan left without a word. His face, recently lit by the false glow of the anniversary, now pale as canvas streaked with tragedy. He simply rose, past the stunned guests, and vanished into the night like a shadow. The world he knew ceased to exist. The father he respected was a stranger. The mother he loved kept a monstrous secret. And himself, he was the fruit of lies and deceit. Harold sat motionless at the table, like a stone idol. For the first time, he didn't control the situation. His meticulously built world career reputation crumbled instantly. Confusion flickered in his usually cold, calculating eyes. He was used to commanding, dictating, suppressing. But now, disarmed by the truth, Eleanor unleashed. He stared at the empty plate before him, seeing his hollow life reflected. The words he'd bottled up were out, bringing not relief but bitter defeat. His silence wasn't power, it was surrender. He felt everything disintegrate, walls he'd built crumbling. For the first time in years, he felt truly alone. Vivian stormed out, sobbing. She felt doubly betrayed, first by Marcus choosing Eleanor, now by her sister hiding the truth about his death and Nathan. Pain choked her, blocking breath. She ran blindly, fleeing hurt, disappointment, the guilt haunting her life. She'd always sensed something wrong, a family secret, but never imagined it so monstrous. She remembered Marcus, his laugh, his lively eyes, her childish crush, naive dreams of a future together. And now, after years, learning he fathered her nephew, with her sister concealing it all, she felt cheated, used, robbed of what she cherished. Her whole life seemed a lie, lived in another shadow. She stopped, gasping in sobs, staring at the night sky. Stars seemed distant and cold, indifferent to her grief. Eleanor remained alone in the room amid overturned glasses, crumpled napkins, uneaten food, silence pressed like a heavy weight. Guests departed, carrying shards of her past life. She looked at her hands old and wrinkled, recalling them young and tender when Marcus first held them. His kisses, embraces, words of love. How happy she'd been, dreaming of the future. Then war, death, despair, and marriage to Harold. Loveless but calculated. A marriage that turned her life into a prison. She surveyed the room. Expensive furniture, crystal chandeliers, wall paintings, all mere decor hiding emptiness and loneliness. She approached the window, gazing outside. The night was dark and starless. A lump rose in her throat. Tears she'd held back flooded out. She wept for her lost love, ruined life, her son learning the harsh truth. But with grief came relief. The secret she'd guarded for years was out. No more pretending, lying, hiding feelings. She was free. Eleanor stepped outside. The night air was fresh and cool. She breathed deeply, feeling new life fill her lungs. For the first time in 40 years, nothing to hide. No need to play loving wife, caring mother, devoted friend. She could be herself, weak, confused, but free. Hours later, as dawn barely broke the horizon, Nathan sat by the river. He didn't remember getting there. He'd wandered aimlessly until reaching the water. The river flowed leisurely, carrying away fragments of his old life. He stared at its dark waters, pondering his fate. Who was he? Whose son? Who his father? No answers. He felt lost, alone, abandoned. He pulled his phone from his pocket, looking at a photo he always carried. Him as a child with a young, smiling Harold. This photo symbolized family, love, loyalty to him. Now it seemed fake, deceitful. He gripped the phone, ready to smash it, then reconsidered. He didn't want to destroy the past, however flawed. He wanted to understand it, navigate it, find his place in this new reality. He recalled Eleanor's words about Marcus, their love, his death. He imagined this man he'd never seen his true father, tried to feel a connection, understand, love him, but it was hard. He'd known Harold his whole life, grown on his example, learned from him, respected him. How could he erase him now? He remembered Vivian's accusations against Eleanor. Felt her pain, resentment, disappointment. He realized his birth caused suffering for many. He was the product of lies, deceit, betrayal. How to live with that? He closed his eyes, trying to calm. He needed time to think, process, understand, to find himself, his identity, his place in the world. He decided to start small, learn more about Marcus, his real father. Find his friends, relatives, comrades. Nathan wanted to know what kind of man he was, what he lived for, dreamed of. To feel part of his life, his family. He opened his eyes to the rising sun. A new day dawned, a new day for his new life. He stood and walked toward the sun, toward his destiny. Vivian returned to her hotel room and sat on the bed. She felt emptied, her whole life upended. She pulled an old photo from her bag, her, Eleanor, and Marcus, young, happy, hopeful, standing by the river, laughing, embracing. Vivian remembered that day vividly. She'd felt happy, free, loved, believed it would last forever. But then war came. Marcus left for the front. She waited, wrote letters, dreamed of his return. He didn't. News of his death crushed her. Life seemed over. Eleanor supported, comforted, helped her through. Vivian was grateful, thought Eleanor her best friend, sister, rock. But now she knew Eleanor hid the truth. Knew Marcus fathered her child. Knew Vivian loved him. Knew her silence hurt Vivian. Vivian felt betrayed. Unsure how to forgive Eleanor. Unsure how to go on. She recalled Eleanor's words implying Harold's involvement in Marcus's death. She'd always suspected, but couldn't believe. Harold was powerful, influential, capable of anything. Vivian resolved to uncover the truth, to learn what happened to Marcus, to find proof of Harold's guilt, to avenge her love, her life, her lost youth. She rose and approached the window. The city stretched below, full of secrets and mysteries. Vivian gazed at it with resolve in her eyes. She was ready for anything, ready to fight for the truth.